Welcome back to The Person That Everyone Needs. Today we're going to finish up our discussion on the traits of leadership that the person that everyone needs to have. Today, our last thought is on being a growing leader. You are not the person today that you ought to be tomorrow. You should be building and getting greater every single day. I want to take you to Romans chapter 5 for just a moment. Romans chapter 5 begins like this. It says, "Therefore, since we have been justified through faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand, and we boast in the hope of the glory of God. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us." If you want to be a person of character, you've got to have hope. Hope flows out of us from the principles in our life. If we work the values that we know are true, then we have the hope that tomorrow will be better than today. But hope has to come from character, and character comes from perseverance. And sadly, perseverance only comes from suffering. But suffering and glory are always connected. Suffering precedes glory, always. And so if you want to see great things, if you want to see glory, suffering is a part of what it is that you want to accomplish. But you have to stay on track, because it is suffering that creates perseverance, perseverance that creates character, and character that creates hope. And that hope is the hope of the great glory that you're working toward. James even reminds us that we should be happy about trials, that we should take joy. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you face trials, because they bring to pass the very things in yourself that you want to see. Now, one of the things that we often discount probably the importance of is change. Change in itself is not suffering. However, we don't always enjoy change. You think about the major changes in the life of Moses. Moses reinvented himself 3 times. If you want to be the person that everyone needs, there are going to be times where you have to change. You're going to have to reinvent yourself. Moses lived in the palace for the first 40 years of his life. And then he was angry that his people, the Israelites, were being persecuted so heavily. So he ended up taking matters into his own hands and literally killed an Egyptian, which put him on the run. He ran. He was an outlaw and went into the land of Midian and became a shepherd. For 40 years, he lived a quiet life as a shepherd, living near his father-in-law, Jethro, out there in the middle of the wilderness. And then after those 40 years, when he turned 80 years old, he was called to go back to Egypt to deliver the people of Israel back to their promised land that God had promised to Abraham. And so these major changes in his life, he was found in the river and made a prince. At the age of 40, he murdered an Egyptian due to abuse and was on the run. He runs into the wilderness as a fugitive and becomes a shepherd. At 80, he returns to Egypt to deliver Israel. For the next 40 years, he would lead them through the wilderness while the Israelites came out of Egypt. It took a long time to get Egypt out of those Israelites. And so Moses had to make some significant changes in his life in order to meet the challenges ahead of him. So perspective of growth, pressure proves what we're made of. Struggles are opportunity. Every time you endure a difficult season in your life, it's a moment where you get to find out who you are. Moses had 3 great opportunities to find out who he was. And each time, what he found out most of all was that God is faithful. Here's another perspective of growth. Every circumstance provides an opportunity for development. So what I like one of my personal lines is, excellence is greater than extra. I want to get better. I don't want to just accumulate stuff or see how many gifts I can have. I want to be a person of excellence. I want to grow into becoming a master of something someday. Growing leaders, they have 3 things that make them winners. Here we go. Number 1, they have winning attitudes. Their attitude is, nothing is beneath me. I remember when I was a young person and I was heading on a mission trip one time, me and a friend of mine were working some jobs trying to raise money for this mission trip, and one of the jobs asked of us was to dig holes for a fence. And as we were digging those holes in the ground, the guy with me wasn't large enough to use the drill, so I told him I would drill the hole if you'll just reach in and pull the dirt out. And his response to me was, I will not degrade myself to this. Now, we were given money to go on a mission trip. Degradation is a part of it, right? And I'll never forget him saying that. So what I would do is I would drill the hole and I pulled it back out, and he would hold it up so I could dig the dirt out, and then I'd dig the hole again. The winning attitude is that nothing is beneath me. If you can't pick up a broom, you cannot pick up a mic. That's how I feel about ministry. I tell people that all the time when people are like, can I sing a special? And I'm like, I haven't seen you serve anywhere else yet. If you can't pick up a broom, I don't want you picking up a mic. That's the way I feel. I want to see that you have a servant's heart. That's the attitude we all should have. Here's another part of it as far as that attitude. There's nothing I won't do, but there's plenty that I shouldn't. Some of us need to have understanding that there's nothing beneath me, but there's some things that other people should be doing, either because of gifting or because I don't want to take everybody's place. Just because I can do something doesn't mean I should be doing it. Other people need to have a place too. So, number one, growing leaders have winning attitudes, and the attitude is nothing is beneath me. They also have a winning mindset, and that mindset is nothing is beyond me. Leaders are readers. Your time of greatest potential is a time of least urgency. When you're a young person, you have the greatest potential. You could be learning the things that you need for the rest of your life to become the person that you want to be. But usually you had the least amount of urgency. You had the least amount of care to read books, to go to seminars, to check out what it is that you want to eventually become. Leaders need the mindset that nothing is beyond me. I can learn. I can accomplish. I can get to the person that I need to be to get there. John Maxwell says, time sharpening your axe is not time wasted. There's a story of two men who were cutting wood together, and every day one of the men would leave for an hour for his lunch break. And at the end of the day, the man who left for an hour actually cut more wood than the guy who never took a break. And at the end of the week, he was angry. He said, how is it that you're cutting more wood than I am? And he said, when I leave for that hour, I sharpen the saw. You need to be someone who is consistently trying to sharpen who you are. You want to get more and more excellent every single day. The third thing, growing leaders have winning attitudes, they have winning mindsets, and the last thing is they have winning habits. There's nothing I can't become. There's nothing I can't become. We become what we repeatedly do. If you want to be a person of significance, you need to repeatedly be the person that is significant. And how do you prove out your significance? Well, you find the significance in other people. Stephen Covey once said, habit is the intersection of knowledge, skill, and desire. These things converge together, something that you understand, something that you can do, and then you have the heart to get better at it. That's what a habit is. And if you continuously do those things, you will get better. They say that 10,000 hours of doing something will eventually make you a master of it. So that's a lot of time. It absolutely is. But how great it must feel to master something in this life and be able to show it off to others and say, this is what my life's been about. So here's a couple of questions to think about as we get ready to close up this entire segment. Number one, what trials have you endured in your life that may build up others? What have you been through? What have you suffered that might be an encouragement to someone else? I recently sat down with a friend of mine the other day that was trying to explain to me that I don't understand what depression looks like. Well, I've struggled with depression multiple times in my life, and I know the habits that I've had to put in my life in order to live over those things. And so I explained to them my story, and I told them the dark days that I went through, the moments that I wanted to give up on all of it, and I didn't think I had anything to live for. And then I told them about how I keep myself clean from those thoughts, how I have worked it through, and I hope to never endure that again. And I went through those dark times, I hope, in order to help others. I hope it's not just so that I can suffer. I believe that suffering eventually brought me perseverance, and that perseverance has made character in my life, and that character has given me hope. And part of that hope is that I can help others through what it is that they're going through. So what trials have you endured that perhaps have created some skills in you that you can pass on? Here's the second one. What attitudes are you keeping that are hindering you? What attitudes in your life are keeping you from the person that you want to become? Here's a third one. What habits do you need to build into your life? What do you need to start doing so that you can become the person that everyone needs? What extra in your life is there that is going to hinder you from becoming the person that you want? What are the things that are distracting you from what matters most? What I can tell you right now is that a person who becomes excellent at anything, a person who is regularly growing, who is allowing change and suffering to make something greater in them, well, that's the person that everyone needs.